Claudette, thanks so much for coming in today and sitting down for a chat.
No problem at all. I'm glad to be here.
So let's start with, tell me a little bit about your background in the nonprofit space, and then we'll get into what you're doing now.
Okay. So I have been in the not-for-profit space for about 25 to about 30 years, somewhere roughly in there. I have worked in the regulatory space and in the healthcare industry. I have worked in the insurance not-for-profit space. I've worked in the computer science not-for-profit space. I have worked with government, professionals, doctors, lawyers, a wide range of individuals, loving every minute of it. I think it's joyous for me to be in that space.
So in all the different places you've worked, like what is the one common thing that makes you feel joyous about the work that you've done in the space?
Every single one of them, it's education. So I've worked in the training and development, professional development component for all of those. Any aspect of training and development, whether it's from the implementation of a new training program, designing it, getting it delivered, making sure that professionals know how to do their jobs and do them well. So always education.
And how did you become adept at the training and development part, especially as it relates to the nonprofit sector? Because I'm sure there's some differences between how you train in the social sector versus how you might train in the private sector.
Actually, you know what? Sometimes not. Sometimes yes. So what I personally did was I spent a lot of time getting certifications and learning about how the human mind actually works. It started off because I hated school. I really disliked school. I am on the spectrum, and so I really did not have a fantastic time in the school system. And I had an English teacher who one day stepped up and said I had to write something poorly written, but very emotional for her. And then she realized, she's like, I think you might be a high-functioning autistic individual, so we're going to teach you how to use your brain a little bit differently. And so learning that skill set and learning about the neuroscience and learning how people learn and how people interact with information globally, I kept on going down that pathway. I found in not-for-profits, regardless of where I started, I always ended up in the education component of it. And so normally what's happening is we're not for profit, but we're educating. Usually individuals are in the for-profit sphere. So when I was working in healthcare, I'm educating an occupational therapist in the profit sphere. In the insurance broker who we're educating. So we're the not-for-profit, but our end user or our membership has always been the for-profit side. And it's literally how do we get them to perform optimally? And that's all through education or training of your staff, whether it's something as simple as a job aid that you're giving somebody to a full training program to figure out what's wrong, how do we fix it, who's doing it right, what are they doing, and how would we translate what's being done right to the person who's not doing it as well as they can so they can improve.
So what you've described is, your role in working kind of in that nonprofit, helping the for-profit, helping the professionals in different industries achieve kind of whatever the goals and objectives are. How does that translate to the work that you're doing now? Maybe describe a little bit about what that evolution has looked like for you.
I'm still in that space of the education, right? Educating individuals to be optimal. In the not-for-profit world, there's a lot of individuals, because I focus primarily on people who are underserved, individuals who don't have access to information, and they still want to learn. The thing that I'm driving down even further is working with neurodivergent individuals, because they are, some people call it a superpower, some people don't like that word, but they have some capacities and capabilities that allow them to be hyper-focused in areas that they're really interested in. And so in the world that I'm in right now, it's still, how do we get people to understand individuals are capable of doing excellent work when they are trained in a way that is suitable for them, and then let them have an environment that lets them thrive. My job is, I talk to people all the time. I talk green, I talk money. I'm trying to help companies make money and I'm trying to make sure that people have money in their pockets. And so I still work in that space.
So, when you're building out these training programs and you're helping people succeed, when you look at the work that you're doing now and what you're trying to create now, how would you describe what you're doing now with Be Future Ready?
So Be Future Ready is we're wanting to help two groups of individuals. There's my personal passion and I have a co-founder. So my personal passion is something, I have a motto called 130M, and I want to help 130 million Black and Indigenous women globally increase their hourly life rate by $1. There's a long story for that, but generally, if you can increase someone's hourly life rate, especially a woman who's over 40, their entire community gets positively impacted. So that's my personal drive. In order for them to increase their hourly life rate, they have to have future-ready skills. I come from a tech background. So unfortunately or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, AI is revolutionizing how this world is going to function in every job, in every area. And so people need to develop those particular skills. And having a computer science background and personally using AI, we wanted to be able to teach people how to use the tools that are going to be the tools of 2030 now, so that they can increase their hourly life rate, whether that's the company that they choose to work for or if they're self-employed. My co-worker or co-partner, she is like a diehard fanatic about youth. So am I, but I'm leaning more towards the women. So she wants to be able to help youth who are 15 to 29 or even younger start developing those same set of skills, that they're ready for the future, regardless of whether you're working construction or technology, engineering, or where business ownership. You have to have a certain set of skills, and that digital literacy, that AI literacy is required. Even if you're using a jackhammer, things are changing. So we're trying to make sure that folks are future ready, so that wherever they go, whatever they're doing, especially when they're from a low socioeconomic area, they've got access to these skills so they can use them to enhance their life, their community, their family, and their future.
So let me go back to this kind of inception moment, this origin moment. You'd been working in and around nonprofits, helping people find the green.
Yes.
You've got this idea to help 130 million people increase their life wage.
Yeah.
How do you start? How do you take that and turn this into this vision that you've just described?
Phenomenal people. So the first thing I had to do is I had to sit down and think about really what am I trying to do? And so one of the things I normally recommend for anybody is you have to have some wise counsel around you, whether it's a book that you're going to read, a YouTube station that you're going to watch, a podcast that you're going to listen to, or you go get some advisors. And so we had to hone exactly where did we want to focus for the next 2 years. We have something called the theory of change, and a lot of people have this in the not-for-profit sphere. Our guess is if we do these things, then it will change this environment to result in this particular thing. So the trajectory that I wanted to go on is our theory of change is that if you introduce women who are over 40 and partner them with youth who are 15 to 19 on developing their tech skills, that they would be able to enhance their whether it is their companies that they're working for or the businesses that they're running. So that's our theory of change. There's more to it. Yeah. And so what we wanted to do is we now need to go and train these individuals on the tools that will help them do two things. Business automation. So you want to be able to capture and improve your business so you're free to go do the things you really love to do. The other thing we want to be able to do is we want them to be able to learn AI skills. So the prompting, because if you don't write a good prompt, you'll still have hallucinations and you will not be successful. So how do you pull these tools in and remove the fear and the phobia about these tools?
So just to pick up on that, you talk about the 15 to 19 or the 15 to 29-year-old, many of them are not working in a company where these enhanced skills will earn them a greater income. Does some of the training you do encourage that kind of entrepreneurial activity that says, hey, I can go and do this myself?
Yes. So because we're focusing on neurodivergent individuals, and there's a stat that says about 500% of entrepreneurs usually fall somewhere on the neurodivergent scale. They think differently. So we're trying to encourage them to either start businesses or acquire businesses. So I don't know how many people know this, but in Canada, in the next 2 to 5 years, 30% of all the small businesses that exist, and there's 1.29 million small businesses, they are going to be closing their doors because they have no succession plan. So we would love to do some of what they call generational wealth transfer. So we want to be able to empower these neurodivergent individuals and these women to acquire these businesses. When these women retire, so they're 40, work for the next 20 years in the small business that they can either acquire or start. Their partner, if they choose, this 15 to 19-year-old, will be at the age of acquiring that particular business in a couple of years' time. So either A, they've started their own business because they've got the tools to support them, and they've got the personalized AI training in business intelligence, which we're going to provide for them as well. Or they're either doing very well in their own companies, climbing up the corporate ladder, because sometimes the traditional education system, actually almost all the time, is not designed for neurodivergent people. So we're trying to go, here's all the skills that you need wrapped in a personalized training program. And we've been doing personalized training before AI. It's just enhanced our ability to do so. and then give them this opportunity to learn how to acquire and run a business by doing the automation of the business and the knowledge capture.
So you've learned from your past experience, you've worked with advisors, you've consumed all the knowledge you can find. Now you have a vision, now you have a mission. Maybe describe where you are, because obviously starting something new that has never been done before takes time, energy, and effort. Maybe describe that process and where you are today.
So with the history that I actually have, being in the not-for-profit space 25 plus years, there's a lot of pre-existing information, transferable skills, as they like to use those terminology. So what that does for me is it allows me to kind of sit down and say, I want to be very intentional about where I want to be in 5 years. So we're reverse engineering how we're setting up this organization. There's, of course, when you're setting up a not-for-profit, you've got your regulatory pieces. So you've got to be a registered charity. You've got to get your banking in place. You've got to register with CRA to make sure that you've got your GST number. We've got all those basic things already taken care of. And we're working with somebody to support making sure we've got our charity set up. But we also have some internal conversations. One of the things that we find fascinating, and this is going to be a bit of a controversial topic, but we'll see. I don't agree with not-for-profit because this idea and the mentality of net zero keeps a lot of people in a place of poverty. So we probably want to be a more of a social impact or B Corp organization, because we want to teach people that you're supposed to increase your hourly rate, and we're organizations set on hitting zero. So there's something odd about when we're trying to make impact and help everybody's life be better, but we have to live from paycheck to paycheck as a not-for-profit on a yearly basis. So we're having that discussion on whether or not we want to be a social impact organization with some kind of interestingness that we don't know what it is just yet. But we are starting off as a charity. And the other thing we're starting off with is trying to get grants to be able to apply for pilot projects. So that does mean partnering with other groups that can apply for dollars. We've right now are working with the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce. A lot of the universities and colleges, so Queen's University, Mohawk, Seneca are on board for us running a pilot project. And we're in 2025, we're literally planning how to run 3 9-week programs to test the things that we need to test. The faster you iterate, the better it is.
So I don't want to cut you off. You can't just drop that I don't like nonprofit. I don't like nonprofit.
I love not-for-profit. Mine. Now hear me. I've worked in it my entire career, like literally my entire career, and chosen to be in that space. But sometimes when you're looking at it, it's like, we need to massage that. There's something about it that goes, the idea of every year you're going out to go beg irritates me. You don't have enough funds or resources to survive the next year. A biggest fear for everybody that works not-for-profit, and you know this, biggest fear is, how do we keep our doors open next year? That is what I don't like about the not-for-profit, because we're doing phenomenal work, yet year after year, we've got to have this sort of underlying panic attack of how do we keep this work going if certain funding doesn't become available.
So how do we, other than maybe the way you're approaching it, how do you address that scarcity mindset that exists in that nonprofit, that we are paycheck to paycheck? Is it that we're just not attracting people who believe in a long-term vision, which means we're not communicating the long-term vision very well? Like I'm just going back to your experience, because obviously you're doing something different, but where does that scarcity mindset come from?
I think it's because at the end of the year, we're not allowed to make money. So we have to be able to, when we communicate with our audience, we often communicate our donors, our sponsors, anybody who's giving us dollars, is that we're not talking, as I said, green. They speak green. So if I'm going to go partner with, for example, I had a really great conversation with somebody at LinkedIn. And they're like, I love what it is that you're doing, but we need to understand how we're going to make a profit on the end of this, because we are responsible to our stakeholders. Understand. So how do I learn their language and then make sure the not-for-profit that I'm running gives them the information, whether it's data or qualified individuals who can feed their pipeline, or find a way to tap into generating green for them so they want to continue to support me. And so not-for-profits have to figure out this, and I think you do a really good job of stop going, please, sir, can I have some more? Versus, if you give me this, I'm going to double your investment by creating a solution that you cannot create. Therefore, they want to stay in partnership and continue to give dollars to us. That's the workaround for me, is that I think from a business perspective rather than a not-for-profit perspective. Business perspective is we need to make sure our stakeholders are happy and that we're providing a green end result, profit P&L. Same not-for-profit sphere, how do I create a value add, like a real value add to these organizations that are supporting us beyond the DEI checkbox opportunity?
I want to go back to kind of where you are in your path. You've registered the nonprofit, you've gone through, you've done some of the foundational work that's required to start. You've always worked in the sector, but is this the first time you've started something from scratch, and what have you learned through that process?
In the not-for-profit, the first time I started something from scratch. I've always kind of been employee of. When I started my specific company, it was for-profit just because of the nature of the work that we were going to do was automatically for-profit. So this is the first of doing the not-for-profit. Where we are right now, ensuring that we have our governance lined up and making sure that we've got a project or a pilot that can run to validate our theory of change while we're structuring what our organization will do for our community. So it's a lot of conversations and a lot of research and a lot of in-depth of not trying to duplicate what others have done. Where do we fit in the not-for-profit ecosystem? Where do we fit in the tech ecosystem to make sure that we're not, robbing from Peter to pay Paul or something like that. So it's how do we fit into the space? And it is the conversations. Some people will there's a problem, let me jump right in. Because I've been doing this for 25 years, a lot of the stuff that they need to learn by fire, I've learned for the last 25 years. So now, as I said, we're reverse engineering. Our end result is that 130M. How do I build something that can impact 130 million Black and Indigenous individuals globally?
So when I think about, somebody else who's got an idea that maybe will have a transformational change in their community, somebody in Estevan, Saskatchewan, or Chilliwack, or any other town, who maybe doesn't have 25 years of business experience.
Okay.
Right. So you're saying it's your business experience that's led you to this process where you've done your research, you've done your homework, you've built an advisory board. What would your advice be to somebody who's got a transformational idea, but really doesn't know where to start?
Launch a pilot as quickly as you can. It doesn't have to be big. As quickly as you can, whatever you're trying to solve, run out into the marketplace like your hair is on fire and run something quickly. You need feedback as soon as possible. So in the for-profit world, there's this idea that if you have a product, sell it as quickly as possible, even if it's only the idea. In the tech space right now, you'll hear people have an idea and they're getting seed money of $11 million to like $350 million. Nothing has happened yet. Nothing. It's just they thought through the idea and they put it in front of others and they see what the traction is. So I would recommend the exact same thing for a not-for-profit. You've got an idea. Get your idea in front of eyes that can give you some feedback and it could be the cheapest pilot. You can go out and say to groups, this is the thing that I want to do. For example, last year I spent time with a company called Black Boys Code Society. They wanted me to launch Black Kids Code Girls in GTA. I was like, okay, cool, no problem. I signed the contract because there was nothing established for Black Kids Code in Toronto. Nobody knew who they were. So the first thing I did was I actually immediately, once I signed the contract, on the Wednesday, there was a DMZ event. Went to DMZ event, found a couple people who I was interested in and being influencers or participating with a very shaky voice and being nervous, and because I was overstimulated that day. I went up and said, hi, my name is Claudette. I'm starting this thing. I love what you are doing. Would you be willing to be a mentor at my event? The first person said yes. That's all you need, is the first person saying a yes. So you don't have to have 25 years of experience. And the day that I went, as I said, overstimulated. So my professional self was not at the table. I probably offended a couple people. I know one lady I made very angry because I said I didn't care about what the boys were doing. I was only concerned about the girl, and she only had boys in her family. So you go into the market as quickly as you can with whatever the idea that you have, and you try to ask people for their thoughts and opinions, and then run a pilot. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, it doesn't matter. Find a local community partner. So if it's a physical thing that you need to do, find a space. There's lots of community spaces that you could probably get for nothing. It does mean picking up the phone and making some phone calls.
Where do you get that confidence from?
Who says I'm confident? Let's get this clear. We are not confident about this.
So you're an actor who's just exceptionally skilled at your role.
Exactly. So I would say scary, shaky voice, heart palpitations, projectile vomiting, coming from both ends. Still, do you care about what you want to do? That care will carry you, right? I care about impacting women's lives. Prior to me launching Be Future Ready, I had talked to about 30 women over, I don't like being political, but with the United States having its shift from DEI, a lot of the friends that I have were in that space. And now they went from having a, performance evaluation of 4 to 5. And in 3 months now it's a 2. They're frustrated. So I care about them. So my awkwardness, in the back of my head, I'm like, but Claudette, you want to be able to give them the AI skills that they need to either start their own business, acquire their businesses, or change that 2 back to a 4 or 5.
So I want to follow through on something you said. You have this experience. You start something new. Yeah. What did you learn along the way, or who helped you learn the order of operations? How do you put things in order so that you can come out at the other end with a defined plan that says this is how we're going to get to our 130 million?
So first thing I tell people to do is in your 6 degrees of separation, there's a lot more people, even if you only know one person, there's a lot more people in your Rolodex who could probably give you some guidance and direction. So the first thing I did was actually just open up my Rolodex, went on LinkedIn and started searching very badly, help in setting up a charity. Started reading some of these individuals and just emailing them. So the first thing I needed to understand how to set up the charity properly. So I just Googled it. I literally did. And then people like you would reach out and be like, what are you doing right now? And here's a connection. So all of the people in my community said, hey, here's the 6 things. So here's where AI came in very handy. I need to set up a charity in Canada. Tell me what are the 7 things that I need to do to start setting up this charity. ChatGPT, paid version. You can do the free version. I understand people get upset about it, but it's better than Google because it gives you immediately. And then I just followed those steps. First step was find other not-for-profits that exist. Well, I'm a part of a few. If in your life, regardless of where you are, you probably have a couple things. So you've worked somewhere, you have a career, there's probably an association that exists in either the company you work for, somebody in that company has an association. You call and talk to the receptionist or the person who's at the front desk saying, hey, can I talk to somebody who set up your association? And you might get a couple no's, but talk to another not-for-profit. How did you go about this? Then look in your Rolodex about the other things. So you've got your governance model. That's number 1. There's only 5 or 6 real pillars in setting up a not-for-profit. How do you run the thing? That's your governance, right? That's literally what that is. The people who are going to work with you, so your HR, your people, so leading your people, you're going to have a plan of some sort. So that's your strategic planning, your action plan, or operational plans. You're going to need physically where you're going to be or virtually where you're going to be. So that's how do you set up the actual physical space and the things to set up that space, your technology, printers, whatever it happens to be. And all this can be virtual. And then the last thing, what is the value you're actually adding to the people you're trying to serve? All of those 5 things are focused on who is the person you're trying to impact. So define the person you're trying to impact. How are you going to impact them from leading the folks? How are you going to impact them from how you operate, governance model, literally how do you operate? What is the plan that you're going to use to impact these people? What things do you need? So do you need a physical location, a virtual location to be able to, and what is the value you're going to provide society? Answer those things, and you do that by asking a bunch of questions. Sometimes you can just talk to yourself on your own phone.
So when it comes to building this out, how important is that network that you said, that LinkedIn network or that virtual network or that in-person network to help you when you hit a stumbling block? Because I'm sure you're going to hit things along the way that ChatGPT can't help you with.
Critical. You don't need that many though. So people think I need to have like 600 people. For Black Kids Code, I had 4 kingpin people in my life. That was it. And I entrusted my ideas to them and then grew from there. So everything started with, I think, 2 people. I reached out to one person who I knew had an extroverted energy like no other and had them go run some stuff for me. And then I had another person who was just like, help me make sure I make the right decisions. Just ask me the right questions. She's my questioner. That's what she does. Literally, the best question asking person on the face of the earth is this person, because she's just naturally curious. Mm-hmm. So I had conversations with those two people. So that's all you really needed. And then you just add one at a time. But the network is important, and the right people who believe in you. I'm a firm believer in like prayer. So I'll be like, yo, help me find who are going to help me do this thing. Whatever you believe in, lean into it. And then just go ask questions. And when it came time to tackle a new area, I would ask people like, hey, so-and-so, this is the thing that I'm thinking I'm doing. Who helped you answer this? So the Canadian Society of Association Executives, I joined it. Right? I didn't need to be association executive. I worked on the project for them, and I was able to go into the chat, go online and find some forums. If you're on LinkedIn, there has to be like about a good 100,000 groups in the not-for-profit sector. Join 2 of those groups, post a question. Find out who the thought leaders are. You'll see them. And then you kind of direct message them saying, hey, do you have like 30 seconds to answer this question?
Is there anything upon reflection that, as you set this up, that you say, man, I made a little mistake here, and I wish I could have course corrected a little earlier. Maybe a warning for those that are also trying to start something new.
Yeah, get some people in your corner. The biggest mistakes I've ever made anywhere, period, has always been, I think I know. You don't know. Talk to people. As scary as it is, talk to people. And then take their advice with a grain of salt, because everybody has this complex that they think they know everything, but the universe is too vast for you to know everything. So you go ask a question or two and add it to your knowledge. My biggest mistake was not asking the right questions, not because I didn't ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
So give me an example of a question you wish you had asked somebody in that network.
How do you set up a charity properly?
Well, but ChatGPT gave you the answers.
No, ChatGPT gave me garbage because I didn't know how to prompt it properly, right? So if I go set up a charity, well, it's going to go to America. America doesn't set up charities the same way Canada does. So when you're asking about the prompt for ChatGPT, ask somebody who knows how to do proper prompts. So in the province of Ontario, looking at regulation, blah, 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 I would like to set up a charity. What are the first 3 steps that I should ask myself? And then you have to know how to go back and ask it to validate its answer, validate its answer, validate its answer. Because when I started, what ChatGPT is now versus what ChatGPT is a year ago, different. So it would give you bad information. So even then, learning how to ask a question, I had to go to other prompt engineers to say how to prompt this thing properly.
So you're sitting here, you've got a lot of this foundational work done. What's the next big thing the next big obstacle for you to overcome before you get this fully rocking and rolling?
So we're going to be running a pilot in 2025. This is a personal issue for me because I want to increase women's hourly life rate. A lot of the women who've come to me said, I will do this for you for free. I've said to all of them, no, I need to pay you. My foundational value for our organization, a part of governance, you're going to have your own values and the characteristics of your organization. I've defined that. And my values are when women have to get paid something. So it's getting the dollars to run the pilot project. And that's finding the right partners who understand what the project is about and want to invest in it. And then getting the right people to the table. So right now it's actually, because what you want to do sometimes, and I said it earlier, is that sometimes you just want to, if you're new and you don't know, jump in. If you're like me and you've got more skill sets and you're trying to build a longer solution that's going to last for 10, 15, 20 years, I'm holding back on the reins. I'm pulling back because I'm reverse engineering this problem. So when you're in a world of technology where every day there's a new initiative coming out, that pressure to accelerate without doing your due diligence, it's a real pressure point. So for me, it's really design this thing well. A lot of people, when they're doing strategic planning, they're like, well, 60% of strategic plans fail anyway, so why bother? Let's just go shoot at the hip. Yes, there's times to shoot at the hip, but there's some times where, especially when it's a very important project, breathe, slow it down, work it out properly. It's like you wouldn't want a pilot who said, I just learned how to fly to a flight simulator yesterday, and I'm going to take a Boeing 747 and fly to China. That's not the person you want in the cockpit of the plane flying you.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like what you're saying is if you're going to make a big change in the world, sometimes you have to have a little bit of patience.
Absolutely. I've made minor changes along the way. I've worked in the not-for-profit space for a very long time. I have started at 130M, but to reach the larger numbers, now I have to sit down and go, what does it take to make this actually work? Slow it down.
That's perfect. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.